for a long period of time, and it's over now, by the way. It ended sometime in the 80s. She says that there were two very large suns a long ways away. She didn't say how far, but the radiations from these suns took about 720 years to get here. And apparently what had happened, there was a freak thing going on where the high-frequency radiations from these suns, two different suns, collided when they kind of hit or came to an apex on the planet Earth, and that there were three different places on the planet Earth where this effect in the Bermuda Triangle would happen. These radiations, when they would come together, would put kind of a rip or a tear in the fabric of time, causing just perhaps for a few seconds or a few moments for there to be a window into another dimension open. And what would generally happen when this window would open up, caused by these freak radiations, if there was a plane or a ship or whatever in the area, they would somehow slip right into this other dimension. They would just instantly find themselves into another time frame, another dimension, on another world, on another Earth just like this, where they had no idea where they were and what would really happen. She then began to explain to Billy a little bit about what a dimension door actually looked like. And she took a pencil and drew a picture, and if you look in your exhibit manual, I'll have a little drawing in there that you can kind of look at that'll help you with that. That if you, for a moment, if you don't have something to look at, you can kind of imagine it. It looks like a spiral. She says if you could see a dimensions door, it looks a little bit and acts a little bit just like a cyclone or what a tornado actually does. That if you swirl some energy around in a spiral fashion, that there are different parts to this spiral now that have different effects. That the center part, whatever, if you look into the center of a spiral of a time door, a dimension door, that you'd actually see into the other dimension. That the way to get into the other dimension, the passageway, is actually off to the edge. And that what is necessary to do, through technology, they learn to screen or protect the ships in a certain way that they can move into this other dimension somehow and then actually be able to return. Any object or ship that would fly directly into the center of this dimensions door without the proper technology to come back would be stuck there forever. And this is the case in what happens with the ships and airplanes and individuals and so forth that actually slip into it. She remarked also that this structure of the dimension door, this whirling large storm effect where it looks like it's spinning, this is actually also seen in tornadoes, in galaxies, in other energy forms in our universe. This is a very common way that one dimension actually is opened up into another. And you'll see on the drawing what I mean when you look at there, that it does look kind of like a cyclone. It's calm in the center, and the storm rages actually out on the edges. Just before the dimension door is about to open up, it'll be very quiet. Nature seems to kind of freeze, and the temperature will warm up a little bit. Very much just like people observe before tornadoes or cyclones. So she drew this and remarked to Billy that throughout the microcosms and macrocosms of the universe, that this same theme, the same concept of moving from one dimension to the other is relevant throughout. Apparently this theme of storms is the matrix, I guess you might say, which causes the same thing to happen here on the planet in like I say, in cyclones. So this passageway is one way that you get from one dimension to the other. They had opened up very erratically from time to time in the Bermuda area, causing ships to slip off into this. Actually, they would slip into the very near future, she said. Most of them would just move forward a little bit in time. So I've often thought it may be possible someday that many of these ships that have flown into that may start reappearing at some point. Every now and then we hear about in the National Enquirer, newspapers like this, where unseen objects have appeared, apparently from nowhere. Well, they may be the result of some of these accidents that have happened in the Bermuda Triangle. By the way, that effect is over. The planet Earth is now physically moved out of the area where it's affected by the radiation from these suns. And she says that effect will no longer happen, at least not for those particular reasons. The other two areas, by the way, where that effect also happened was close to Madagascar and off the coast of Japan. Quite often, sometimes the same events would happen, but they were not as well known. Apparently they weren't, wherever these other two places weren't on well-known trade routes where the stories of missing ships would actually happen. or would be told, or possibly they just didn't happen very much. Okay. Billy also had a question about apparitions, like there are apparitions, people claiming that they've seen the Mother Mary, or that they've seen other religious figures or stones bleeding and things like this, and he wanted to know if she had any comments on that. She remarked that in most cases, well, all cases that they knew of, that they were always fake. The apparition itself wasn't fake, but the intent of it was that the apparitions would generally be caused by the Befath or other ET intelligence which come here occasionally, which are also rather wicked, and they would create these apparitions for people to see. People would think that they were actually coming in contact with the Mother Mary, and they really weren't. It was just another way of controlling people that wanted to believe these things. They would then become followers of whoever was instigating or claiming these, taking credit for these things. And it caused people to believe more and more in myths that just simply are not true. Next interesting thing that really kind of happened about this time period, Billy was told by Semjase, or actually asked by Semjase, if he would use the mental capabilities that he had been taught to throw his thoughts over into America to take part in a rather unusual thing that's going on there. She says there is something called the Sudanese Liberation Army that is going to cause a major catastrophe on the planet if they aren't stopped, and she wanted Billy to become involved. Well, Billy, even though his mental powers, he'd been experimenting with astral projection and other things, were very strong. He was kind of surprised that they would suggest this, and so why don't you just take care of it yourself? She says, well, we really can't get involved and we don't want to, but we feel that you should, because here's what's going to happen. That the SLA, which is William and Emily Harris, Wendy Yoshimura, and Patty Hearst, actually could accidentally trigger a nuclear blast in San Francisco, causing a major world catastrophe. And they suggested that Billy send thoughts to the FBI and the police there where they were hiding out so they could be captured. They then showed Billy a map of the Mexican-American neighborhood where these people were hiding out, and after it was explained to Billy to all the problems that they could actually cost and the major loss of life that could come from this if he didn't, Billy agreed to do it. And Billy says that he actually then, that evening, sent mental transmissions to a Mr. Charles Bates of the FBI, letting Mr. Bates know where the hideout was. He then sent the same information broadcasted to the San Francisco police, and which led, he says,